So, that's a vanilla Coke for people wondering. Not beer. I've been meaning to do this video for a while, and because it goes more to the heart for me than your standard YouTube video. I have a friend who has had multiple sclerosis for quite some time. I spent some time with her a couple summers ago. I saw firsthand that there are good days and there are bad days. On the good days, you can't really tell. Pretty easy to hide. On the bad days, it can be tough. So I'd be out walking with her, and she'd have to stop. And I had no problem waiting for her because it's an ailment that affects her physically, not mentally. So it's not something that changes her personality. It doesn't change anything about her, but physically you can see it, and it's hard to watch somebody go through that kind of thing. Now, I remember Josh Harding. Being a damn good goaltender for the Minnesota Wild. And him signing a big contract, and he was their up-and-coming number one goalie, and then he was diagnosed with MS. And despite the fact that he had some very good games after being diagnosed, it was pretty obvious that his playing career was coming to an end. He simply could not be a professional athlete and battle the disease. Multiple sclerosis is one of those things that we know about, like MS pins and MS fundraisers, and MS is this thing that's out there, but when it's presented to you by somebody that you've been friends with for, geez, I think I've known her 15 years, more than 15 years. It's hard then when you watch other people go through it, because you can recall watching as you know things on her end are worse than she's telling you. It is one of those illnesses that I think people really try to put on a brave face, because again, mentally they aren't as affected as physically. So you just try to put on a brave face, and you don't want to look weak, and you don't want to look like you can't handle yourself, you can't take care of yourself. One of the worst things is when people in your life feel that you're a burden. So for a professional athlete, I can't imagine you spend your life relying on your muscles and your strength and your stamina, and now your body's betraying you. Now your body's saying, no, you're done. That part of your life is over. It's over, it's done, it's finished. There's nothing you can do to stop it. And the story of Bryan Bickell honestly moved me to tears twice this year. It was heart-wrenching listening to it. And, you know, I listened to it more than once because it is one of those things that transcends the sport. We can talk about standings and who we like and who we don't, but this is something that transcends the sport. It is an illness that is suffered by millions worldwide, and that's millions reported. You have to imagine that there are people in some developing or third world countries who have this illness, and it's undiagnosed. And due to poor conditions and potentially poor medical treatments, they pass on and never get any treatment, and nobody ever knows what was wrong. So with that set up, there's an article in here on Bryan Bickell in this week's hockey news, and it's something. It's something. So yeah, if you haven't watched the Bryan Bickell videos that were done by, I believe there's one done by Hometown Hockey, and I think there was one on Hockey Night in Canada, and I'm thinking there was another one as well, perhaps on TSN. You guys can link to the videos in the comment section below. Again, this transcends hockey. There's other athletes, there's other superstar celebrities excuse me, celebrities who've been diagnosed, it's a real issue. And it sucks. On the day he received the news that his life would never be the same, Bryan Bickell strode unsure from a Raleigh, North Carolina medical office. It was last fall early afternoon as he walked towards his wife, Amanda, who sat in the driver's seat of the family car. In the back were the couple's 2 young girls, Michaela and Kinsley, who had slipped into a nap after lunch. Amanda didn't normally accompany Bryan to doctor's appointments, but something felt different about this visit. During the 2015 playoffs, Bickell, then with the Hawks, was felled under mysterious circumstances. He couldn't catch his legs. He was dizzy, easily winded. He first believed the culprit was an infected tooth, but despite treatment, he could never seem to feel quite right. To some doctors, the symptoms suggested vertigo, and Bickell, who was traded to the Carolina Hurricanes in 2016, underwent every test under the sun to determine a course of treatment. And vertigo can end your career, too, if it's untreatable. Eventually, when nothing seemed to take, an MRI was ordered, and when the results came in last fall, Bickell was summoned into the office of Dr. Josh Bloom, the Hurricanes team doctor. While Bryan met with Dr. Bloom, Amanda stayed in the car with the sleeping kids, her feet on the dash, tapping away on her phone. Suddenly, after just 15 minutes inside, Bryan emerged at the car door. Something was off. He stared blankly at his wife. "Hey," she said, "what's up?" "Can you go in to talk to the doctor?" Bryan asked. Amanda did her best not to read too much into the request. "I just said, okay," got up and walked in. Initially, my mind didn't go very negative. I kind of thought maybe he just didn't understand what the doctor was saying. While Bryan waited by the car, Amanda walked to the reception area where she was led back into Dr. Bloom's office. Almost immediately, she was greeted with looks of concern. Asked if she'd prefer one of the nurses go outside and stay with the girls so that Bryan could come back in before the doctor began. Now she feared things were getting serious. "No," Amanda said. "It's okay, just let me hear it." According to the Multiple Sclerosis Foundation, some 2.5 million people around the world suffer from the disease, a disabling neurological condition that's particularly prevalent in young adults. Certainly far fewer are diagnosed while playing in the NHL. Before last fall, when Dr. Bloom told him he had MS, Bickell was a solid pro, 4 times eclipsing 20 points over parts of 9 seasons with Chicago, where he won 2 Stanley Cups. His career hallmark came in the 2013 playoffs. Bickell scored 9 goals during the Blackhawks title run, including the tying goal with 1:16 left in the 3rd period of Game 6 against the Bruins. I hated him for that, but I've got over that. Chicago took the lead seconds later, and the rest is history. He was traded to Carolina last year along with Teuvo Teravainen. Casualties of the Hawks' salary cap constraints. Still a respected vet. The hope was Bickell might help shape a young team. And I remember last summer talking about how Bickell switching teams might help him and maybe could get him back on track, because I felt Carolina had holes up front and he could fill in. But the diagnosis prevented him from making an impact the club thought he could. Once they left Dr. Bloom's office that day, Bryan and Amanda scrambled to grasp what their new life would become. At first, Bryan was more irritable, stress finding him more easily than it had before. He struggled with fatigue and his motor skills began to fail him. The cold seemed to augment his symptoms, which he learned would affect him more or less depending on time of day. Before he could decide his hockey future, Bickell first had to decide on a course of treatment. Doctors placed him on a drug called Tisabri. I may be mangling that pronunciation. Which he would be administered once a month, hooked up to an IV for about an hour. In some ways, it was a miracle. Though Bickell's MS is in the early stages, the drug seemed to relieve his symptoms completely. Only during the later days in the month, when the medication wears off, do they return. Those days, Bickell said, "You're kind of looking forward to the next treatment." He was able to return to the ice last February, fighting his way back to playing pro again with Carolina's AHL affiliate, the Charlotte Checkers. Yet Bickell had a tough choice ahead of him. At his best, with MS, he could reclaim his old game, the speed, the stamina, the strength that made him the player he was, but it was fleeting. Sometimes as soon as he regained what he'd been on the ice, it was gone again. The decision was brutal. Bickell, still only 31, believed he had plenty left in the tank, but ultimately his disease wouldn't allow him to be the player he needed to be, as consistent as he needed to be it. He leaned on Amanda to make the call. "She's the rock in our relationship," he said. Before he would officially hang it up, Carolina called him up for 4 games of the season, including its final game against Philadelphia, where, in front of nearly 20 visiting family and friends, Bickell scored a thrilling shootout goal on the final shot of his career. Of his choice to retire, Bickell said, "It was the smarter thing for my health." His days now are spent with his wife and daughters. He and Amanda will become faces of the disease, making public appearances and raising funds. Each dollar, Bickell hoped, will bring researchers closer to a cure. Largely, Bickell's MS is under control. Most days, aside from fatigue, he shows no symptoms at all. But of course, there will be hurdles to come in life, not all of them physical. Bryan and Amanda haven't yet told Michaela and Kinsey of Bryan's condition. Bryan isn't quite sure how that will go, other than it's something he will one day have to do. But his philosophy towards how he'll tell them is maybe the window into how he views his life with the disease. They know me as Daddy. They don't know me as Daddy with MS. So, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, Bickell was given an award and honored, and everybody was, you know, very gracious to him, and him and his wife stood up there, and there was an ovation, and it was great. It really was. And it is a disease that I have read recently that they are close to making a breakthrough on. Now, whether that breakthrough means a cure or just maintaining. So maintaining it at the stage it's at and not letting it progress. I haven't been made aware one way or the other, but I know that these hit close to home. Like I said, one of my best friends over the last 15 plus years, she struggles with this daily, and I know it has dramatically affected her life, and she lives with it. She struggles with it, and she has numerous curse word names she uses for it. But the Bickell story, what got me was the fact that it was so long misdiagnosed. I've been in a situation where I had a condition that wasn't diagnosed for 7 months. So the fear you get from not being diagnosed or misdiagnosed, having a doctor sit you down and go, all right, we got it. Here's a drug. This will fix it. We got you. And then you go home, you take that drug, and it makes you sicker. And you go back and you go, I don't think this is it. And the doctor goes, yeah, your test results came back. Yeah, no, I was wrong. I'm going to send you off to somebody else because I don't know what you got. So with him being treated for vertigo and them looking at vertigo and then going, oh, it's not vertigo, that's a horrible feeling because your mind always goes to cancer. Your mind always goes to, I'm going to die, whether you want it to or not. That's why you never, ever, ever Google anything when you're sick. I talk to my wife about that now. I've talked to any girl I've ever been involved with that when they get sick and they start picking, no, do not Google that. Never, ever Google. You Google it, you got a runny nose, it tells you you're going to die. It is an evil, evil thing. I remember my son coming out when he had a tooth abscess last summer. And he woke me up in the middle of the night. He's like, Dad, you have to take me to the hospital. I'm dying. And I'm like, what? I'm dying. I have a tooth, an infected tooth. I have an abscess, and I'm gonna die. I said, dude, you're not dying. I looked at him. I said, your face is puffy. You're not dying. And he answered with, well, I could go septic and die. And I said, you could. You're not going septic. You're not dying. I said, all that a doctor would do right now in the middle of the night is give you a prescription, and I can get you that in the morning. I believe it was on a weekend. And I said, first thing in the morning, I'll get up, we'll go to the clinic, I'll get you some drugs, and you're all cleared up. And I was right. But he Googled it. He Googled abscess tooth, and it told him he was dying. So again, don't do it. It's a bad thing. And for Bryan Bickell, I wish long life and good health. It's something I feel very fortunate. When I look at my 44 years on this planet, I feel very, very fortunate to be in decent health. Yeah, I wish I could lose a few pounds. Yeah, I could be in better shape. I could eat better, but I'm in pretty decent shape, and I don't have any debilitating illnesses or diseases, and I'm grateful for that every day, because there are plenty of people I know that have that. So I never lack gratitude for being in good health, and that Yvonne's in good health, and that our kids are in good health. There's a comfort in that, and there's something that you never take for granted. So that's as heavy as the hockey guy is going to get. And I apologize if this is a little heavy for people, but for me, people wanted me to do a Bryan Bickell video, and I knew I couldn't just talk Bryan Bickell and chin up, kid, because it's a little more personal to me than that, and it's tied to all these other illnesses that'll take somebody out, and it's a shame. Bickell was never going to be a top 6 20 goal scorer, but he was a hard worker, hard-nosed, and I hated the guy because he was really, really good, and he was really good at playing against teams that I cheered for, whether it was Vancouver or Boston. Vancouver in previous playoffs and Boston in the Stanley Cup final. I couldn't stand it. I was like, who is this Bickell? And you know, he was a damn good player for Chicago. So long life to him and his wonderful, beautiful family. And I apologize, this video took a long time to put together, but during the season when everything was hairy and there was all these playoff things going on, I thought, no, I need to really be able to sit and talk about this. I need to be able to just relax and really discuss this. So thank you to my friend who struggles with MS. I know she watches most of, if not all of my videos, and I hope all is well with you. Yvonne and I will be out your way this weekend, and we intend to see you. So I will talk to you about that. Well, you're talking to me on Facebook right now, so I can talk to you on Facebook about that. In the meantime, fuck, I'm lazy. Sorry. Apologies for the swearing. Just like, wow, I'm so lazy. I could just hit that tab and talk to her, but instead I'm talking in a video, I'm taping, then I'm going to upload it. Alright, thanks for watching. You guys are awesome. Onwards past 9,000, looking towards 10,000. You guys make this happen with every like, every comment, every share, and if I could hug each and every last one of you, I might. There's probably a few that yeah, there'd have to be a few out of the over 9,000 that I'd say, no. Yeah, no. And there's probably some out of that 9,000 plus too that will go, why does he want to hug me? Why? I don't want to, why? I just wanted a picture. I don't want to hug. Why does he want, what? Why is he pointing at a closet? See, and these things aren't things you want to have happen, and neither do I. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk to you guys again later. Like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. And like I said, long life and good health to Bryan Bickell. If there was anybody that I could sit down and talk to and have an interview with and chill with, it would be a guy like a Bryan Bickell. I think you'd get really interesting insights on views on playing careers when you're in that position, and it'd be interesting. So when I look at where my whole YouTube channel goes and what happens from here, that is something that crosses my mind. I've discussed that before, that if I ever had a chance to sit down and interview a guy like a Bryan Bickell, I absolutely would. That would be amazing. And I would do it for the channel, and I'd also do it for myself. So if he said, not for the channel, I'll sit and have a beer with you, I'd be like, awesome, let's go have a beer. Yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon.